All right, so you'll see on my desktop here, I have a sample argumentative paragraph that is typed up correctly with the required parts of an argumentative. You're going to get this format for your own argumentative. This sample is the question, should school start later? That's not going to be your question, but this is just an exemplar paragraph to show you all the required parts. So you can see that the first thing you want in an argumentative paragraph is your argument. This is called your claim, and it's your topic sentence. Okay, so the question, should school start later? This person is making the claim. Middle schools should move their school start times to after 8:30 a.m. I've highlighted it yellow so you can match it with the required parts of the argumentative down here. Next, you can see then you have your first reason. One reason for this change is that the sleep-wake cycle among teens is different. So you've got your first reason. Then you put your evidence. This is evidence from your required article, something you watched as a YouTube source, a website, wherever your source is. We're going to do a quote, a paraphrase, with a quote or a paraphrase with our citation. And our citation could be our author and page number. It could be our title of our article. And you could put your citation at the beginning of your evidence or at the end. In this case, it's at the end. So I have a quote here. Adolescents have a deeply programmed biological clock to go to bed later and wake later, says Danny Lewin in an article called Should School Start Later? It's page 20. Notice you don't have to put the word page in there. You just put the number in parentheses and you put your period after that. Then you have your commentary. This is your personal opinion. Notice I did not say I think or I believe. You just say what your opinion is. Schools should follow scientific studies and match their schedules to the needs of teens if they want teens to be awake at school. That's your commentary. That's your critical thinking. So that's called a chunk. When you link a reason, evidence, and commentary, that's called a chunk in an argumentative paragraph. So let me read what we have from the beginning. Middle school should move their start times to after 8:30 a.m. One reason for this change is that the sleep-wake cycle among teens is different. Adolescents have a deeply programmed biological clock to go to bed later and wake later, says Danny Lewin in an article called Should School Start Later? Schools should follow scientific studies and match their schedules to the needs of teens if they want teens to be awake at school. Then you add another chunk. That chunk will have a second reason, your second evidence, and your commentary. And you notice I've highlighted green, yellow, and gray to match the chunk here at the bottom. So then I've got my second chunk. Furthermore, since high school students have to get up so early, most students are not getting the required hours of sleep. Studies show that about 87% of high school students aren't getting the recommended hours of sleep. Harrington 20. This can lead to lower test scores and increased car accidents, so schools should take this issue seriously and re-examine their schedules. Notice these two reasons are different. One of the big issues we have with argumentative paragraphs is that students will do the second reason is basically the same as the first reason. You need to make sure you have a completely different reason. So this first reason is their biological clock. The second reason is that they're not getting the recommended hours of sleep. Those are two different reasons. Now, I have the counterclaim and the rebuttal next, and I underlined it. You don't need to underline it in your paragraph. I'm underlining it just to show you where it's at in the paragraph. Some schools insist on earlier start times because there are conflicts with buses and after-school sports. However, what is more important, achievement and safety or after-school programs? Schools need to get their priorities straight and focus on classroom learning. So you have the counterclaim. What does the other side argue? And what is your response to their argument? Why do you disagree? That's called your counterclaim and your rebuttal. Again, your rebuttal should not be the exact same words you put earlier in the paragraph. Okay? You can include some of the same ideas, just make sure it's worded differently. And then we have our closing sentence. In sum, schools should look at the research and move their start times to after 8:30 a.m. So by the time you have two chunks of 3 sentences each, that's 6 sentences, a topic and closing sentence, that's 8 sentences, and a counterclaim and a rebuttal, you're going to at least have 10 to 12 sentences. Okay, so I'm going to put in here 10 to 12 sentences, which is about as long as your paragraph's going to be. Do not write more than 12 sentences. We're not writing an essay, we're writing a paragraph. But in order to have all the required parts to this argumentative paragraph, it should be 10 sentences. If you don't have 10 sentences, then you've left something out. So we're going to practice this with a different topic and use this as an example as you put together your own paragraph.